Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at BT11, and BT11 offers us lots of new and powerful tools to be able to build and iterate on some new and existing decks. And today's deck I'm going to be taking a look at is going to be a new iteration on the UlforceVeedramon deck. So the UlforceVeedramon deck before was a tamer-based deck where we're trying to utilize our tamers in combination with our Ulforce to be able to try to deal lots of pressure onto the opponent with the amount of attacks that he could have. The deck doesn't necessarily change that much from that core gameplay style, it's just more focused on the new UlforceVeedramon's combination with the new Rina as the new core focus of the deck, and try to best utilize those two cards to not only put a lot of pressure onto the opponent, but to be able to control the opponent's field while also lining up some good defensive plays. So with all that said and done, let's just dive right into the deck profile. Starting off with the Digitama, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Wanyamon. So I'm not running a 5th Digitama. If you wanted to run a 5th Digitama, you could, but I feel like Wanyamon is just one of the better, if not the best, Digitama for this deck, just because he's interacting with blue tamers, which is something we're already playing with, to have easy access at some extra card draw. Next, on to the rookies, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Veemon. So this is the brand new BT11 version of Veemon, and this is going to be the deck's dedicated digger, looking for not only our other Veedramons, but our blue tamers as well. Then on top of that, he has a nice inheritable ability for when we're playing our blue tamers to gain us some passive memory generation to make those types of plays a little bit more efficient. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Veemon. So this is the EX1 version of Veemon, and this is trying to help us gain memory when we're unsuspending our Digimon, which if we're in our UlforceVeedramon and we're interacting with the new Rina, then we should be able to unsuspend our Digimon to allow us to make more powerful follow-up plays, just because our cards are going to be more memory efficient. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Veemon. So this is the Ulforce starter deck version of Veemon, and it's really good for that warp potential. So that way we could go right from our rookie into our level 6 to have some sort of comeback play or comeback mechanic inside of the deck. Then on top of that, its inheritable ability is just trying to help us draw cards. This draw effect is more useful in the early stages of the game, and it doesn't necessarily become super useful later on when we do have a nice established hand size, but it's still a nice effect to have nonetheless. Next, on to the level 4s, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Kumamon. So Kumamon is just that hybrid alternative win condition, but I'm utilizing Kumamon more specifically because it could realistically be any level 4 hybrid that could digivolve on top of a tamer, just because he has a nice when digivolving ability to add a little bit extra potential disruption towards the opponent's game plan. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Veedramon. So this is the brand new BT11 version of Veedramon, and this is a fantastic card to synergize with the deck just because it has lots of interaction for us literally playing our tamers. While it's just chilling passively on the field, it's going to allow us to draw a card, which basically is allowing the tamer to replace itself so we can keep our hand size nice and healthy, on top of the fact that its inheritable ability helps us gain some extra memory when we play our tamers, to allow those types of plays to be more tempo efficient. And then the last champion of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Leomon. So this is kind of a tech or flex spot, and it could really be anything you feel like you want to use depending on the type of package you're trying to support the deck with. But because I like Leomon and the fact that we could utilize our Ulforce to be able to play our Jeris allows us to want to utilize this type of a card even more than some other level 4s, just because during the opponent's turn, as long as we have a tamer in play, which we should, it'll have the blocker ability, and it's a really good card to want to block with and sit on the field because its on delete ability could disrupt the opponent if they're trying to aggress into us by allowing us to gain 2 memory and a card draw, allowing us to have some really good combo play and synergy thanks to this card and some of the other cards in the deck. Next, on to the level 5s, I'm going to be running 4 copies of the brand new AeroVeedramon. So this brand new version of AeroVeedramon is a really fantastic card to use just because we have a way to suspend him down to be able to allow us to try to dig for our tamers, which is, again, what we're trying to play around with, and on top of that, its inheritable ability is actually super important for this style of deck, allowing us to be able to utilize our Rina's on-play abilities, which we have 2 different Rinas to try to take advantage of with this ability to try to make our Digimon and our cards as efficient as they possibly can be. And then the last ultimate of the deck is going to be 3 copies of AeroVeedramon. So this is the Ulforce starter deck version of AeroVeedramon, and this is a really good card for the deck just because we want our level 5s to be suspended. The new AeroVeedramon allows us to dig, and this AeroVeedramon actually allows us to attack into the opponent's security and be safe thanks to his jamming ability. Then the inheritable ability that we're going to be gaining off of this card, just because we have a lot of card draw, it's super easy to get that security attack +1. So if we're able to cycle through our arenas and our Ulforces, then we could potentially deal lots of damage with our brand new Ulforce thanks to this card. And speaking of our UlforceVeedramon, next onto the level 6s, I'm only going to be running 4 copies of the brand new UlforceVeedramon. So I'm only running 4 level 6s in this deck because this is the only level 6 I actually care about seeing. I don't necessarily care about seeing any of the other level 6s if I were to run one, and I always want to utilize this card, so I just figured let's just cut all of the chaff and only run what we need and want. So what this card is doing for the deck is just his slew of different abilities that we could take advantage of. When we Digivolve up into him, we get to play a blue tamer from our hand for free, and free value is good value, especially since a lot of our tamers have on-play abilities that we can take advantage of to get even more value off of. Then, on top of that, when we play a tamer, we get to unsuspend this Digimon, which is why we want our level 5s to be in a suspended state, so that way we could unsuspend them to be able to utilize this card even more aggressively. Then, on top of that, he has another ability where during your turn once per turn, when a Digimon becomes unsuspended, basically when you Digivolve up into him off of his ability, you're going to unsuspend him, triggering his third ability. We get to return one of the opponent's level 3 or lower Digimon back to their hand, and then for every blue tamer that we have in play, which we should have at least already played 1 and ideally have more set up on the field before we go up into him, we get to add 1 to the maximum level that we can target with this ability. So the more tamers that we have in play, the stronger of a bounce effect this becomes. And then the last Digimon and only level 7 of the deck is going to be 1 copy of Omnimon. So this is the BT5 version of Omnimon, and we're just utilizing the combination of his when Digivolving abilities, which is Blitz and unsuspending this Digimon, to be able to act as a good game finisher and alternate wing condition, just because in combination with the Ulforce being able to multi-swing a couple of times, we still would want to try to find a way to close out the game, which is where hybrids and Omnimon come into play. Next, on to the tamers, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Rina. So this is the old BT2 version of Rina, and she's still okay for the deck just because she is a Rina to be able to synergize with in case we don't necessarily have the old one, but she's just going to be acting as a stereotypical digger for our V-based cards when we hard player, and on top of that, she's also going to try to help DP boost our Digimon when they're going to be attacking, allowing them to be a little bit more effective than they normally would be. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Davis. So Davis is going to be the deck's dedicated memory fixing tamer to always hard set our memory to 3, so that way we don't get memory choked and memory starved. And then on top of that, he also has an on-play effect that's being very similar to what we just saw with Rina, except instead of looking for our V cards, it's looking for any blue Digimon, which is the vast majority of what the deck is. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Rina. So this is the new BT11 version of Rina, and this in combination of Ulforce is what's making the deck as powerful as it can be and why it's the center point of the deck. So she has the on-play ability to be able to give one of our Veemons or Veedramons the blocker and evade ability, which is pretty good, allowing us to have some good defensive lines of play on top of some good protection for our Digimon. Then she has a secondary ability where during all turns, when one of our Veedramons becomes suspended, basically when we attack, then we get to unsuspend this tamer and activate one of that Digimon's when Digivolving abilities. So if we're going to be using this in combination with our UlforceVeedramon, then his when Digivolving ability allows us to play a tamer, so that way we could set up another Rina or any of our other tamers because they all have on-play abilities for us to try to take advantage of. And then on top of all of that, she even has a third ability where during your turn, when one of your blue Digimon becomes unsuspended, which our Ulforce has ways of unsuspending itself, then we are able to gain a memory, so that way we could try to make our plays as memory efficient as we possibly can, thanks to this card. And then the last tamer of the deck is another tech or flex spot, depending on the type of package you're going to be running inside of the deck. Because I am running the Leomon, I do like having 3 copies of Jeri to be able to combo with. So her on-play ability, which I can get for free off of our when Digivolving ability from our Ulforce, allows us to be able to play a Leomon from our hand for free, which is just pretty good because it's even more free value on top of the free value we already had. Then on top of that, she also has a nice ability that's helping us draw some extra cards during the opponent's turn. When their Digimon attacks, we just get to suspend this tamer to draw a card, which could help us filter through our deck really quickly to make sure that we're able to see what we need to see. Next, on to the options, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Ice Ball, so I can only run 1 copy of this card because it is restricted to 1, and it's still just a super powerful card for us to use, just because its main ability adds a tax effect to when the opponent is being aggressive, making them lose 2 memory, which is pretty decent because it doesn't necessarily matter where their Digimon are coming from, whether it's from the raising area, already on the field, off of a tamer, out of their grave. It just doesn't matter. It's just applying this tax to all of their Digimon. And then on top of that, it even has a nice anti-tempo security ability to allow us to gain 2 memory, which is effectively taking 2 memory away from the opponent. So that way we have some extra forms of disruption that the opponent might have to think about. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Blue Memory Boost. So I was going back and forth between Blue Memory Boost and Hammer Spark because the main goal of those cards is to try to help us gain some extra memory. And I kind of like a Blue Memory Boost more so for the early stages of the game, just because it's also acting as a digging tool. So that way we could try to make sure that we could find the parts and pieces that we need, on top of its delay ability gaining us 2 memory versus Hammer Spark's generic gain 1. So when we're utilizing this card to gain memory to make our plays more powerful, it's allowing us to make even more powerful plays than what Hammer Spark would allow. And then the last card of the deck is another tech spot, and it can really be anything you feel like you want to run, but I'm going to be utilizing 1 copy of Cocytus Breath just as the hard removal card to try to deal with problematic threats we might not be able to deal with otherwise. And that also makes it a good security threat, again, forcing the opponent to have to think about what they're trying to use when they're aggressing into our security, and it could potentially save us from lethal positions. And then as far as the game plan and gameplay of the deck goes, like I stated before, it is solely focused on utilizing our brand new BT11 Rina in combination with our brand new BT11 Ulforce to try to get as powerful of a combo turn as we possibly can, with a whole bunch of different paths that we could take depending on how we build our stack and the types of cards that we see to be able to utilize their abilities to the utmost potential. So as far as the base stack we kind of want to try to achieve, it's going to utilize the BT11 cards for the most part. So we're going to start off with our Wanyamon, Digivolve our Wanyamon into our Veemon, and then in raising still, we're going to try to hide into our Veedramon, so that way we could use the combination of our Veemon and our Veedramon's inheritable abilities to be able to gain memory when we play a tamer, which we already know we're going to be able to do off of our Ulforce. So we could try making Digivolving into our ulforce as cheap as we can possibly make it. So from this type of a stack, it doesn't necessarily matter which of the other level 5s that we want to use. If you want to use the new BT11 one, that's fine. You could also think about utilizing the starter deck one. It doesn't really matter because both of our level 5s, we could get them to be in a nice suspended state to digivolve into our ulforce. So for the sake of the example, I'm just going to be utilizing the AeroVeedramon because of his digging potential to try to find our tamers as much as we possibly can, because we want to have as many tamers in our hand as we possibly can when we're going to combo off. So from here, we're going to hide our level 5 in our raising, try to set up a tamer on the field, ideally a Davis, because we want our memory to be as much as we can possibly have it be at the start of our turn. But even if we are left at 1 memory, we still have the ability to be able to do our full combo with our ulforce. So we're going to move out our level 5, get him in a suspended state, so that way we could utilize Ulforce's ability when we digivolve up into him to be able to unsuspend himself, so that way we could then trigger some of our various other abilities. But just digivolving up into him, we're going to want to be able to play our Rina as the main tamer that we want to play, just because when we play our Rina, we're going to be gaining memory back. So let's just say we started our turn off with 1 memory, so we're going to digivolve for 4 into our Ulforce. Then we're going to play our Rina for digivolving into our Ulforce, gaining 2 back from our inheritables. Then we're going to unsuspend our Digimon for playing a tamer we just played off of its when digivolving ability. Then Rina's going to trigger, allowing us to suspend her to be able to gain another memory back. So utilizing this full combo, essentially just digivolved for 1, which is super tempo efficient and really powerful, and we still have the ability to be able to make some other power plays possible, just because now we could have our Ulforce swing, utilizing our Rina's ability to utilize his when digivolving ability again to be able to play a Rina, triggering his ability to unsuspend himself. And that's kind of the little loop that we're trying to get in, is just to utilize our Rina to be able to reactivate our when digivolving ability to play another Rina to be able to unsuspend him. But even if we don't have the extra Rinas to play around with, we still have at least the old Rina to try to boost his DP to make him a little bit safer than he normally would be, swinging into the opponent's security. And we even have Jeri that allows us to be able to play our Leomon for free, so we can have and set up some extra defensive lines of play on top of our brand new Rina already giving blocker and evade to our Ulforce. And that's the whole setup and dynamic that the deck is trying to play with, is just utilizing Ulforce's when digivolving ability to be able to gain extra benefits off of our various tamers that we're going to be playing. Then, before I get into some of the other tech and tools that the deck could run, I just wanted to highlight some of the variations that the deck can take depending on the type of supporting cards that you want to include inside of the deck, because right now the deck does have that flexibility to allow us to do a few different variations. So if you wanted to, you could think about utilizing the Bond package, just because we could utilize a lot of the Gabumons to help search out our tamers, and then we have lines of play to want us to go up into our level 6 to be able to play our mat for free, and then from our mat we could utilize either a Gabumon either coming out of our raising or on the field already to be able to set up a Bond play, or we could even just utilize the Ulforce after it's pretty much done its job to be able to go into a Bond after that. So Bond is definitely a possible synergy and sub package that you could run inside of the deck, similarly to how, because we're already playing with tamers, we could think about leaning heavier into the blue hybrids, just because blue hybrids have good tempo efficiency on being able to climb up into your level 6, and our level 6, the fact that he's going to help set up our tamers, just basically allows us to utilize what blue hybrid does best to try to control the opponent's field, and to utilize the fact that we're already playing around with so many tamers, and we have even easier ways to be able to set up our tamers. Even though Tommy is limited to 1, the fact that he does have an on-play effect does matter, and even at worst, we could still think about utilizing Koji. Then on top of that, if you wanted to take a little bit more of a budget-friendly approach, then we also have the Mirage Gamon stuff and the Gao package to take advantage of, just because in BT11, the Gao package, even though it wants to play with itself, still is trying to interact with tamers, and the fact that our Veemons are also trying to play with itself and interact with its tamers does add some extra clunkiness into the deck, but the commonality is the fact that they both care about tamers and setting them up on top of bouncing cards into the opponent's hand, so you could try to figure out a good way to be able to line those two evolution lines up to make some very powerful plays possible. Then if you wanted to go even heavier into the Leomon support than what I'm doing already in my base build, then we do have Pangeamon as a fantastic card to build around. Even though, yes, you do need Pangeamon X to be able to have a blue level 5 to digivolve all the way up into your Ulforce, the fact that we still have that available to us, and the fact that Ulforce plays Jeri for free, which allows us to play free Leomon, which we then can be aggressive with because of Pangeamon's inheritable, just opens the door for that type of a possibility. Then you could just go back to some of its old roots in a more pure Veedramon build, utilizing the old Ulforce Veedramon as a good backup support mega, because he's still, again, trying to play around with and interact with our tamers, on top of some of the other old Veedramon cards that we could think about including. And then as far as just some other cards for us to think about outside of the possible different variations that we could build, we do have some really good generic blue cards that we could lean into. So we do have some anti-meta floodgates in the form of Syakumon and Madoki Betamon. Then we do have Jellymon that we were using before that we could still think about utilizing now. Then we also have the Zero line to try to take advantage of. The level 4 and the level 6 are really good for this style of deck, just because, again, they're still trying to play with tamers, and we actually have a way to be able to refill cards from our trash into our deck, so that way we could prevent deck out, because the deck, it does have a tendency to draw quite a lot. Then if you wanted to, we do have a couple of other level 7s that we could think about running. I'm going to be highlighting Jesmon GX just because it's a really cute tech card that allows us to utilize our when digivolving abilities again, which is something our Rina's already letting us do. So the ability to play more tamers is still just a very good thing for the deck, on top of the fact that we could still make Jesmon GX a very powerful Digimon. Then we do have a couple of good generic option cards. As I mentioned before, Hammerspark is one of the better ones. We do have a slew of different removal and boost options as well, and we even have some cards that are just generically playing around with the fact that we want a tamer on the field, like some of the plugins. Then we do have some other really good tamers to think about utilizing. So Taichi V Tamer just synergizes with the Veedramon stuff we're already thinking about playing with anyway, and it's a pretty cheap tamer for us to get out early. And then on top of that, we even have Matt and Sora as another really good card that's rewarding us for having a big hand size and the opponent having a big hand size, which if we're bouncing some of the opponent's Digimon and drawing a lot, we should reasonably be able to get 2 memory off of the card, while also having some extra low level removal in case we can't necessarily get rid of their floodgate effectively or efficiently enough. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.